Hi, second grade. Remember, my name is Miss Emolyn, and I am a teaching artist in the PACE program in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I'm here to help you learn art and classroom curriculum. I'm so happy to see you again this week. You may be watching from your classroom or you are at home. If you're in your classroom, remember you can always raise your hand and ask your teacher if you need help. And if you're at home, maybe you have a study buddy with you or a parent or somebody who can help you along the way. But always remember, you can pause the video if you need more time to finish any part of this lesson. We are going to work again on matter, and we're going to finish your unit of science about matter. We're going to quickly review our 3 states of matter. I think you know them really well by now. And then we're going to focus on how we can change matter or recycle matter to create new things. So I have one artwork up here for you to do today, and then we're going to do a second piece of art at the art table. So all you need to start with is a blank piece of paper and a crayon, one color, purple, red, blue, and your pencil. Okay? We're going to ask ourselves this question: how can an object made of small sets of pieces be disassembled and made into a new object? We start to understand how to recycle matter and create new objects when we understand the properties of the matter itself. So say now with me the 3 states of matter. We have solid, liquid, and gas, right? So we're going to do a sort of art and science combined workshop where we get to visualize the differences between solid, liquid, and gas. And we're going to talk about some properties of the 3 states of matter. And then from there, we're going to move on and talk about how materials can be broken down and reused for new purposes. Okay? Let's get started. So with your piece of paper, you just put it down on your desk. And can you draw a square or a rectangle? Remember how we've been connecting our shapes? So on the page, we've divided the page into 3 sections. Okay? And the first section is our solid. And we're demonstrating that by drawing a square. Or in this case, these sides are a little bit longer than these sides. So it's technically what shape? A rectangle. Now because it's a solid, we're not going to call it a rectangle or a box. Boxes are hollow. What's inside of a box? Air. Now when something is solid, it doesn't have any opening in the middle. It's going to be solid all the way through. So we're going to consider this a block. It can be a block of wood, a block of cement, anything like that. Okay? Draw your rectangle with me. So we have 2 short sides, so you can do the top and the bottom first if you want to, and then 2 long sides where we connect those corners. Good. Now if you work quickly and you like to write your letters, you can write the word solid above. S-O-L-I-D. If you're a little bit more artistic and you just want to focus on the visual shape, just draw your rectangle. You want to try to put it on the side of the page so that you have room for your other 2 shapes. It's okay if it's a little bit bigger than your other 2 shapes or a little bit smaller than your other 2 shapes. Now we notice some properties of the solid. Something that's solid you can usually pick up and feel. So here's something, we're going to use this later, but here's some glue. And I know that the outside case, the container, is solid because it doesn't pour, it doesn't wiggle, it is hard to my touch when I touch it with my hand, okay? So we're going to demonstrate solid by coloring in this whole piece. And when you color it in, the pieces of solid, or the atoms, which you'll learn later, or we can say pieces or particles, they are all touching. So when we color in our solid block, we don't want to see any white coming through from the paper. We want to see a solid color, in this case blue. What color did you choose? Okay, we want it to be nice, solid color in our block. All right, give you a second to finish that. Okay, let's say these two words together, hard and smooth. Now I wrote them in the block because they are properties of a solid. All right, so let's write our two words, our property words, under the word block. Okay, so we have our block, and here's our two properties: hard, H-A-R-D, meaning we can feel it like this wall is hard, and smooth, S-M-O-O-T-H, T-H at the end, smooth. Smooth means there's no ripple texture, there's no rough texture. It would be like the front of the paper, right? If you put your hand across the paper, it is smooth. If you put your hand across the wall, it is smooth. Okay? Great. The next state of matter is liquid. Now liquids, as we know, take the shape of the container that they're in, right? We can pour a liquid. So for instance, we have our container, which is a solid. Well, solid meaning it's not going to move or flow, but in this case there is space inside the container. And inside that container is liquid, and it's the glue. Can you see the glue pouring? Right? Because liquids pour, and they take the shape of the container that they're in. So in this case, the liquid is bound by the edges of this container. All right. So we're going to show our visual of liquid by drawing what looks like a glass or a cup that you would have juice in. All right? Don't be scared of drawing these shapes. They don't have to be perfect. We just want to demonstrate that we can understand by trying to draw that shape and then visually learning through drawing, okay? So if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to draw one circle, or oval, right? That's more of an oval, Miss Emolyn. So this oval demonstrates the top of our cup, okay? Now the sides of a cup, if you think about holding it, sides of the cup come down, and they're usually pretty straight, and the glass or the paper is usually pretty smooth. All right, we're going to pretend it's a glass, and we're going to do that by drawing one extra line right here. Guess what? What does that extra line mean? That means that's the top of the liquid. That means the liquid has filled up that container all the way to this line, taking the shape of that container. Now we're going to demonstrate liquid by making circles of color this time. And they're not going to connect because we want to show a little bit more of our particles or our atoms being farther apart. This is just a visual way of demonstrating a liquid. All right, so let's just do some circles. And we're going to put them close but not touching. Okay? And this way we can see it's not a solid because it's not one complete color, but we are learning that it's a liquid. So the color is going to be close but not touching. Now this should be fun. It's part art and part science. And all of these concepts we're learning visually today. So we know things about our 3 states of matter. This is the last part of our unit. And we're demonstrating what we know. Okay. Good. And if you have a couple extra spots in there that you can fill in while we're talking, that's great too. But guess what? No spot is going to touch. Okay? That's how we're showing that liquids flow. Great. So we have a liquid. What's this word? Juice. Nice. And what are some of our properties that go along with juice? So I'm going to put my crayon down. You can pick up your pencil and write these words with me. Remember, if you're a quick worker, you already put liquid up there on top. And if you want to spell juice, J-U-I-C-E, right under juice. And then we're going to do 2 properties of what we see or feel or smell or touch. Remember, properties come from 5 senses. What we see. In this case, I chose for us wet and cold. Sometimes we have hot liquid, hot cocoa, but this time we're going to say it's cold because it's juice. All right? With your pencil, underneath that picture we just drew, can you write wet? And we all know like how to describe wet, right? When you wash your hands in the water, when you jump in a pool, you come out all dripping wet because that is a liquid. And cold. I think we like to drink cold juice rather than hot juice, don't you? All right, good work. Now let's do our third property, third set of properties in our 3rd state of matter. And what is that? It is gas. Nice. Okay, so in this case, we're going to draw a big circle. Big circle. And if you took my class last week, you remember how to draw a circle and how that circle can turn into a balloon. So that's what we have today. Let's draw a big circle. Ready? Take your pencil and circle goes up and around. Mine sort of goes off the page, and that's okay. And look, I'm already kind of going outside the lines, but that's okay too. Draw your big circle, and if you're like me and you like things a little bit realistic, this is like the bottom of the balloon, and then we have the string of the balloon that you hold on to so that it doesn't float away. Good. So you're starting to look like a balloon? All right. Now with gas, what are some things we know about gas? When we think about gas, let's think about air, right? Because it's hard, we can't see gas, but we can breathe. So let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Right, we just breathe the air in, and that is a gas. Coming in and out. Okay, so with air or gas, we have our container, but we're just going to make our spots of color even farther apart to show that there's more distance between if we were thinking about atoms or we're thinking about particles. Okay? So we're going to do that by taking our color and making a couple spots of color in random places, and only a couple because we want to show that that is not a solid, not a liquid, but a gas. Okay? So it's different than this, different than that, and more spread out, more spread out. It'll fill up any container it's in, right? Gas will fill up a bubble. If you do a bubble with bubbles or gum, It'll fill up a basketball, right? When you pump air into the basketball, it'll fill up the balloon with helium, and helium is lighter than air. So what does helium like to do? When you hold that string, if you let go, what's the balloon going to do? It will float because helium is lighter than air, right? And we breathe in oxygen. That is also air or a gas. All right, we have our word air here. Grab your pencil, and if you want to, you can write G-A-S up above, that's gas, and down below write A-I-R. Good job, second grade. Good job following me. And below we're going to write two properties, and I have chosen two words for us. Light has the G-H-T at the end. Let's spell light. L-I-G-H-T. And steam. That's a property of air or gas because we can see steam sometimes. That's something we can see, but steam, S-T-E-A-M. Great job. Great job. Beautiful work. Now this is something you could put on your wall to remind you, like a study guide of the three properties, three properties of each state of matter, right? The states of matter being, say it with me, solid, liquid, and gas. Good job. Now we're going to start asking ourselves some questions, okay? How are materials broken down and reused for a new purpose? How can recycling change the shape of an object's purpose? How can we recycle objects based on their properties? Okay, so I want to show you some things that I brought. We have paper as changing the shape of an object's purpose, okay? So if you have an extra piece of paper around, we're going to change the shape of this piece of paper. It's just a scrap piece of paper. We're going to change the shape by crumpling. Can you do that with me? Change that shape. Nice. Also, if we tore it into shreds or we cut it into pieces, then we're changing that shape nice and quick. And what if we recreated the strips of paper and we made something out of it? This is a recreation, all recycled paper, and we made something new. The second thing I want to show you is a recycled and repurposed rug made out of t-shirts. How is that even possible? Do you have a t-shirt on right now? And it's made of fabric, right? So if you start cutting up strips of fabric, strips of the t-shirt, then you get new pieces of material. Look at this. This is a t-shirt that was cut up and now it's new pieces of material. And you might think to yourself, well, if I had a big handful of just random pieces of fabric, it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't create anything but a mess. Yeah, if it's left like this, it's a mess. If it's a t-shirt, we can use it. If it's cut up to a big pile, we can't use it. But guess what can happen if you keep repurposing and reusing, reconstructing something like this? This is woven, and the t-shirts became a beautiful rug, a beautiful hand-woven rug that you can put on the floor and walk on, and it keeps your feet warm in the wintertime. And that is made from recycled t-shirts. I wanted to give you one other view to see that big rug. Nice. All right, I'm going to put it on the floor. It's now usable and functional. Okay, last thing, and then we're going to do our art project, is if we see pieces of glass and something solid like that, it can break, right? And if it breaks, we don't always just want to just throw it away. What if we start taking things that are broken and trying to refix them? And this is where art comes in. This is where you come in. This is an example of pieces of glass that were broken and reassembled and made into a piece of art. Isn't that fun? So you can see, let's bring it closer. You can see how something that seems like it would just be broken and not usable can be turned into art. So we're gonna do some recycling of our own today. And in your classroom or in your home, I want you to ask yourself this question. How can an object made of small set of pieces be disassembled, like this glass, and then made into a new project? Can you think of a time when you have recreated something by using other materials? Recycling is turning things into other things. Have you ever experimented to turn things into other things? What did you make? Can you think of some examples? Did you make like a bench out of a tree? Or paper into a book? You did that last week if you were in my class. What about melted crayons and made a candle? Or tires into a tire swing? Nice. Okay, for our last art project today, we need a piece of construction paper. So one piece of colored paper, pair of scissors, glue, and a piece of white paper to glue the construction paper onto. I will meet you back at the art table. White paper, construction paper, glue, and scissors, and I'll meet you in a second when you've gathered your supplies. I want you to take your piece of colored paper and you're going to cut it up in any kind of shape you can think of. I'm going to cut this with you, but I'm also going to show you what you're going to create. It's just going to be a pile of colored pieces of shapes, just like the fabric I picked up. When you cut up everything, it doesn't look like much, but it will become a cool piece of art eventually, okay? So, with me, this is your background, white piece of paper. Let's cut up some shapes. So you can cut on the diagonal. You can cut in a circle, turning the page around until you have a circle. And it doesn't have to be perfect because this is just fun, random shapes. You can cut that off any way you like. You can do a squiggle, diagonal, swirl. Okay, so just work on making any kind of shapes you can think of. I'm going to give you a second to do that. Straight, zigzag like a triangle, curve shape like an S, oval shape, long on two sides, come back on a short side, make an oval. So I'm going to give you a couple more seconds just to make as many shapes as you can. You can do a square, any shape you can. Keep on cutting. All right. When you have a nice amount, I want you to see if somebody close to you chose a different color, and are they able to share their colors with you by trading? So if I was working with somebody and I saw they had a bunch of blue, I could say, will you trade me some pieces of blue for some pieces of green? And you don't need to look at the shapes. You just pick up a couple and trade them. Okay? So if you're working at home and you have a study partner, if you are working in a classroom and you can lean to a neighbor close to you and trade colors. So look, I've got now two colors. I only had to do the work of one color, but my friend across the room had another color. All right, so now we get to reassemble these shapes into something new. We don't know anything about it yet. We have no clue what it's even going to look like. But we're just going to imagine if these shapes were like matter, right? If it was all together, all connecting, it would be a solid. If we imagine our drawing from before and we move these pieces, these particles apart, this is more of a liquid, just based on what we practiced earlier. So move them out, one, so that we can pretend it's kind of a liquid, and two, we can start seeing our awesome shapes. Right. And if we moved it out even farther with fewer pieces, take about half of those pieces away, still on the white paper. You stay on the white paper, deconstruct, take away about half of the particles, spread them out. This would be more like air, right? And if we did a discussion with our friends, we could say this is air because the particles are far apart. So you can do a mosaic. A mosaic is where you take pieces of something like the glass and you put it together to make an image. So in this case, we're taking pieces of paper and we're going to recreate them into an image. So think about what you would like to make. Okay, it can be absolutely anything. If you put your pieces touching, that's going to make a solid. So what if we demonstrate all three? Let's create something solid in the bottom corner by connecting these shapes. So the shapes that are all connected, what can you make? Look at this fun shape right here, and it's all connected. And I would glue these things down to make my mosaic. Fun, I like that, okay? I like that shape and it's connected, so I'm gonna glue them down. So I want you to start moving your shapes around and gluing them to the page. It can be anything you can come up with. Your piece of art is gonna look different than mine. But for fun, we're making a mosaic where we take small little pieces of particles of glass or paper and we turn them into a new piece of art. And it doesn't actually have to look like a real thing. So I'm getting a resemblance of things, but it's not specific. I'm not saying that I'm trying to make a car. I'm just saying I'm making a new shape. Okay, so work on a solid. The solid part of your picture would mean that these pieces are touching. Work on your solid part of your picture. Good work. Okay, bottom left-hand corner down here, connect the pieces, make them touch, and work on a solid shape. Reconstructing it there. Now, in the background, you can either do air, where they're all not connected, or you could do a liquid by drawing a container to put your shapes in. For instance, if this was a lake, you can draw your container and put your images inside your container. How cool is that? And we know they're contained, but they are a liquid because we're going to keep these pieces separated. They are not going to touch, just like what we drew with our crayon. It's a nice liquid construction of our mosaic. Good job. All right. And then the last element is to add some gas. Okay? So I'm going to finish my piece and I will come back and show you what I created. And I want you to spend a couple minutes on your mosaic. Think of a solid, think of a liquid, and think of a gas as you create your beautiful mosaic. All right. So what we learned today is how to visually show our understanding of the three states of matter. Our solid, liquid, and gas, or our solid, liquid, and gas. I challenge you to take this piece of artwork home and explain to somebody what you did. We created something, but our thought process was all about the three states of matter and science, right? We would have never created a piece of art like this if we weren't already thinking about the three states of matter and how the atoms can disassemble, reassemble, and we can create and reconstruct these things, right? I challenge you to share your piece of art, hang it up on the wall, explain this science lesson, and once again, I'm Miss Emolyn Liden, and I look forward to seeing you back next week, 2nd grade. Keep making art.